So AQA exams, so AQA is an exam board. And they're the ones that your kids sit, would in some areas they're GCSE or A-level maths, languages, whatever. They've put their fees up by 8%. Now, they're not the only exam board that have put their fees up, but they've hit the news because they've put their fees up quite significantly. And there's been a bit of a ruckus about this. Oh, please do like, subscribe and share. So the cost of the most popular ones is going up by 3 and 4.2% in 2026. So your kids' school is going to have to pay more money for them to sit their exams. And the reason this has caused a bit of a ruckus is because the schools can't afford it, because the schools don't have any money. Now, when everybody was being distracted and diverted by the VAT on education argument, which was the thing that dominated education headlines, it sort of took away the optics on what's actually happening in the state system. So everybody was so busy hating the people that go to the private system for daring to do so and daring to complain that they didn't want to pay VAT on the fees that they already pay in the state school place that they don't use, that argument. Whilst that was rumbling on, state schools funding we were being told was going up, but the reality of it was actually increasing by 0.9%. So when Bridget Phillipson was slamming the independent sector and saying state is great and we're putting more and more money into state and this is going to be funded by the posh kids down the road, the reality is that the funding that's going into state, by the time it's absorbed all the other increases that are being placed on schools because of Rachel Reeves' taxes, and cost of living and cost of functioning and the fact that schools really are in a bad way, the actual funding per child is 0.9%. So Reeves said that she was going to, the school's budget would grow by £4.7 billion over 3 years, which sounds quite a lot, doesn't it? You sort of think, oh, well, okay, they're doing the right thing by education then. But when you look into it and you realise that the headline doesn't actually tally with the actual reality and see that the Treasury's own documents said, and their own numbers said, that by the time schools have kept up with increased salaries, existing cost pressures, and the Treasury docs admitted that once existing cost pressures are taken into account, such as pay rises, extension of free school meals, the core school's budget will grow by an average of 0.9% per pupil in real terms each year. And in the Treasury documents, it said schools were under severe financial pressure, reducing staffing, reviewing spending, and review and learning resources and making cuts to all of the above. So when you find out that AQA are putting their exam fees up by up to 8%, which will make AQA a revenue of £6 million, you start to think, hang on a minute, something isn't adding up here, is it? And this wonderful schools budget that Rachel Reeves is talking about is actually not a wonderful schools budget, because it's not going to the kids. It's going to other stuff that the schools have got to absorb, and the actual real benefit by the kids is 0.9%. That's not a lot, is it? And we know that money is not going to come from the independent sector. That's gone on social housing. Yet AQA are making 6 million on their exams. Now, I'm wondering, is she going to charge VAT on that? Are we going to pay VAT on sitting an exam? Where is this VAT going to end? Because we were told that private schools could absorb those costs and they were making money. That was the rationale behind it. So that money could be VATable. So are we going to add VAT to exam boards? Are we going to extend our VAT on education? Now that we've decided that we can tax education, are we going to extend it to the exam boards? What are we going to do? How are we going to work with this? Now, I don't know the answer. I'm reading this headline and, it'll take a little while before I've processed it all and thought about it. But my headline response to this is, yes, they're putting their exam fees up, but it's highlighting even more the lack of direction that this Labour government has for education. It's highlighting even more their failings, their inability to actually support the kids where they need it. And we've seen that with the schools having to pay their own pay rises out of existing budgets. So the core school budget is no better off than it was. And we hear a lot of chat from Labour about how the Tory party didn't increase funding and didn't increase spending and they didn't prioritise education. And then we appear to be doing exactly the same. Now, you know me, a spade's a spade. Do I think the Tory party were exemplary with their record on education? Hell no. No, this is not a case of they did it better. I think in some areas they did, but I think in many areas they absolutely did not. But what I categorically know right now is that this Labour government is not doing it better, and the Tory government of past has gone, oh my God, there are areas in our educational record that we did cock up that we need to amend, but there were also areas in our educational record where we were absolutely flying, so we need to improve on that. The Labour Party, they haven't got anything they're destroying what was good and destroying further what could be good. So the Labour Party are doing it from both sides. So what seems like quite an innocuous headline of the exam board putting their costs up 8% is actually not. It's highlighting more than ever the pressure that schools are under and the lack of foresight by this government on how to get them out of that. And VAT hasn't worked, hasn't helped. So what's next? What are we going to do to support the state system? And as I said, all along, whilst we were all so busy arguing over posh kids and poor kids, which is what it basically boiled down to, because Bridget Phillipson wanted you and I to have a class war about it, which is nothing to do with education. It's just her ideology. This was going on in the background unnoticed, a bit like the education bill. So for those who are interested in education, put it back on your radar. And as I've said, you don't have to have kids to have skin in the game. You don't have to have children going to school at the minute to have skin in the game, because the kids that are at school at the minute are going to be the nurses, the doctors, the firemen, the politicians. I hope they're not, but they're the future. So what we invest in them now is crucial. Whether they're your kids, my kids, nobody's kids, it doesn't matter, they're kids. And if they don't get that investment, and if they don't get that support, we can fast forward 15, 20 years to being in an even worse place than we are today, if you could believe it. So I very much think we all need to have our eye on the educational prize. And Bridget Phillipson and Rachel Reeves at the minute are doing an amazing job of driving everything that was good about education in this country into the ground, obliterating it and ruining the outcomes of every child in education. And that to me is a whopper headline.